Alright, hey everyone. This is the second video in the Dungeon 23 series. So, if you are unfamiliar, Dungeon 23 is a year-long project which will result in a mega dungeon. So, every day out of the year, you create one room, and at the end you'll have a 365 room mega dungeon. So, in case you missed the previous video, this is my map here. This is kind of an overlay of the map, and I plan on just placing it somewhere in the Sword Coast. It's going to be nestled in a mountaintop, like a valley mountaintop. So the kind of main gimmick behind this little town here, maybe a population of 50 or so, is that it is built in front of an old cave system, and inside that cave it opens up quite large, and there's a massive tomb door that has been sealed off through magical means, and it has been sealed off for hundreds of years, if not thousands of years. And almost overnight, everyone in the town has vanished. And the only clue is that the tomb door is now open. So that is where the party will come into play. They are going to be dropped off by a caravan, and I imagine the guy operating the horse and buggy is in a hurry. He's kind of creeped out about the town in general, or there's a snowstorm coming, so he kind of throws him out and gets going. And the party that is going to be consisting of the actual players, they're not going to be the first party that was sent to investigate. There was a previous adventuring group, but communication has been lost, so they're not sure exactly what's going on. I imagine the patron behind this is maybe the mayor of a town that's not far away, and this is like a sister town. But here's the little overhead map, and then here's a kind of a sketch of what I imagine the party will look like as they enter the cave system and move forward. I think from here on out I probably will do mostly sketches like this. Here's the tavern, so I'll do a little bit of an overhead map of the tavern, and then I will translate it to this. I'll translate it to a digital map, and I use Dungeon Draft for this one. It's pretty easy to use, so I'll provide a link. I don't think it costs much. It might be free. I can't remember. I don't believe there's a subscription. I really hope there's not a subscription, because I've been paying that for years if that's the case. But yeah, here is the kind of the main meat and potatoes. So the more I was kind of humming on as to how I would run this campaign, I kind of got some inspiration just by looking through the monster manual. But I imagine the first battle, the first encounter, is going to be when the players enter this abandoned town, and they will use this town as the base of operations. So I think that if I run it kind of realistically, so to speak, the players can go into the cave system, they can fight, and they can take short rests and probably get away with it, but they're going to be unable to take long rests. I can't imagine the party being able to sit in an open cave system or underground castle, whatever it ends up being, for 8 hours at night with a burning campfire without having some type of creature make an investigation, see what's going on. So I like the idea of the party having to retreat each night, each 24 hours or so, and spend the night in the abandoned town, which I think would be kind of cool for role-playing in general. They'll have access to all the resources of the town. And let's say someone in the party is a accomplished blacksmith or has any type of backstory where that comes into play. They'll have access to the forge and all the equipment. So that could be kind of cool. They can make their own equipment, so to speak. But moving back into the tavern, I have a feeling that this is kind of going to be where the first combat encounter will take place. The party goes into the tavern to investigate, and it seems as though they stumbled upon some criminals stealing and pillaging from the town. It appears as though the thieves are kind of caught off guard and surprised. They have sacks of loot on the ground. It appears they've been drinking for some quite some time here. Maybe they've done a couple runs at this town already, so there's some missing loot. And it doesn't take long for the party to realize that, hey, this is actually the original adventuring group that was sent here to investigate. They decided to take the easy route and just steal from the town. They didn't have to necessarily investigate. So if you get a group of like paladins or do-gooders, this is probably where a combat encounter will take place. And, most murder hobo groups, I'm sure combat will begin relatively quickly. So, you got that going for us. I think there's another little sketch of a kind of a shrine. I think in this town, in typical town layout for me, at least how I see it, two kind of key buildings. One being the tavern, the inn. This is where the story tends to kick off for most campaigns. NPCs will be met here. In this case, not really. It'll be abandoned. And then the other important building of a town that can kind of tell you exactly what's going on with this campaign is the shrine. I think you can tell a lot by a little town just through what religion or what type of god they are worshipping. So that is another little piece I have to work on, is exactly who these town folk are worshipping. I kind of like the idea of the townsfolk being in on it at the very end. There kind of being a little twist. But the more I was researching and looking into what I would put in this cave system, because I'm just making this up as I go, I decided I would kind of avoid the cult and kind of make it more straightforward. But thumbing through the monster manual book, I came across the Lich. Now, I've never run a campaign with a Lich before, and the more I read about this Lich, it makes a lot of sense as to why things would be going on the way they are. So, if you're unfamiliar, a Lich is a mage. It is a wizard, powerful wizard that has made a deal to become immortal. However, of course, there's a catch. And I think the reason behind, why a mage becomes a Lich, why they made that deal can be important. That is a story I'll have to flesh out. But the Lich needs to feed on souls and, humanoids in order to stay immortal. So I think that's why I could see this town being led into or being, kidnapped, or however you want to see it. I think that kind of plays into the storyline. And the way I think I kind of want to run this, just looking through the monster manual book alone, there's just so many cool enemies and creatures in here. I think that I kind of want to incorporate as many cool enemies as I can, but I want to make it kind of cohesive. So drawing from, let's say, Elite Four from Pokemon, that's kind of what I was thinking here. For inspiration, I like the idea of kind of, this boss after boss, like 4 main bosses. In the end, one of the bosses being the Lich. So I could see this campaign taking place inside the cave system, where they are presented with 4 main enemies. I see the Lich kind of reanimating or projecting the 4 previous tenants of this cave system. And the party has to fight their way through each, ruler of the cave at one point and one time. So I imagine, the first boss, maybe when this cave system was first being formed, what would be the first kind of group of humanoids to take over, kind of primitive looking group. And I could see goblins. That's an easy opponent for the party to take on. So the first wave of enemies they're going to have to take on would be the Goblin King. And I see the Lich kind of controlling these puppets almost, maybe he brought them back to life, or they were just magical means. These creatures and bosses think that they're just, constantly in a loop where they think this is reality. And however, that is not the case. They are just puppets, and the Lich, his main objective. So the first enemy, they'd fight the goblins, and then they would move on. What would take over this cave system thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years after the goblins took over? I could see dwarfs moving in, mining it for all the resources, and then staying nestled in there. The third boss, I'm not quite sure, so I'm open to suggestions. So we got the goblins, and the dwarfs take over, and then I could see, an obvious one would be a dragon. But if I wanted to be more original than that, I'll have to continue to research. And then the fourth one being the lich. So that is pretty much what I've got going on so far. Just to summarize, I think moving forward, I'm going to just do these basic sketches in the notebook, like this tavern here, and then I will translate it to the digital format here. So that is a quick little update. Hopefully you enjoyed. Let me know in the comments if you have any suggestions for a boss to take on, or let me know how your Dungeon 23 project is going along. Until then, take care.